So we're going to talk about LinkedIn, obviously, transforming the way the world works. I think it'll be interesting because we've all seen a lot of what LinkedIn does being very corporate focused, and yet recruiters have driven a lot of the growth of LinkedIn, certainly traditionally. Interesting to see how we're going to take that forward to the next level. John,
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining the session. My name is Jonathan Gaskell. I'm a Senior Relationship Manager at LinkedIn. I've been at LinkedIn for the last 4 years. I joined from a background of both contingency and executive search, a couple of teeth at a place called Venn Group, and then went on to work at a boutique search firm called GRS, which no longer exists. I don't have anything to do with that. Then I moved off out of recruitment into LinkedIn, and as I say, I've been there for about 4 years. Seen a heck of a lot of changes. As was just mentioned, when I joined, I was the first person to focus purely on, I suppose, flying the flag for the staffing industry at LinkedIn. The commercial, the way we were looking to monetize the site was very much on the corporate end. You're all probably very, very aware of the end client that uses our solutions to effectively save money on agency spend. And I'll come on to a few reasons as to why that thinking has now sort of caught up and evolved. But it's all to do with our members. Our members, we're a members first organisation. So the theory behind that is we don't do anything that would have a negative impact on the individual member, you, me, sell, change anything on the website that would implicate that. As an ex-recruiter, I fully believe that thinking was wrong. There are some very good recruiters out there and some very bad recruiters out there. It doesn't matter where they sit, whether they're internal or whether they're external. So it's down to the ecosystem to really self-promote and police itself. So I've got a few slides here. I think I've got about 25 minutes. I don't want to sort of induce death about PowerPoint. But I think probably the best thing to do is to get through the slides and then take some questions if there's time afterwards. Is that okay? Great, thank you very much. So the title here, Transforming the Way the World Works. I think the last 10 years has seen a lot of change with job boards, technology, social media as a whole, and LinkedIn is playing a part in that. And we want to make sure that we're doing the best we can in educating our members and showing businesses on LinkedIn how they can benefit from it. And that's what today is about. So our mission, everything we do comes back to this. As I mentioned, we're a members first organisation. Our mission statement is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. So what does that mean? It means we're not a job board, it means we're not a database. There are so many other things that you can do, as you know, for a client or a candidate, a potential employee of your firm to add value to their career before they will start to consider an opportunity with your organisation. So how do we deliver that value? How do we make sure that we can ensure that our members are getting that value across the board? It all comes back to three things. The first one is identity. So connecting, find and be found. So maintaining your professional profile of record, and also having the ability to network with like-minded individuals, professionals, in order to connect with them and build up your networks. Insights, so content. You've probably seen things like LinkedIn today. I would assume a lot of you are members of groups and contribute to groups, enabling you to gain insights and value around your own career and better at what you do. And the third one is everywhere. I think any platform on the internet faces the challenge of making sure that they can reach their customers, or in our case our member base, wherever they are. And 25% of our traffic comes from mobile. So it's key that we ensure that we keep up to speed on that. So what does this mean for businesses? How does this translate to adding value to you as a business owner, a director, a manager, a recruitment consultant? How's that going to add value to what you're doing and ultimately impact your bottom line? We split this into three things, into three channels. Ultimately, three things that you will do as a business every day. And for the recruitment agency world, for the staffing world, We say that when we're talking about hiring, we're talking about not only hiring the best talent for your own organisation and how you reach those individuals, but also how you place those candidates as well. Marketing, how your brand is perceived, how you're building that brand. Like it or not, if you're on LinkedIn, either as an individual and or part of an organisation, you're creating a perception of your brand. And selling is the business development channel as well. So those are the three channels. That's how we've split it into impacting your business in transforming the way that you can hire, market and sell, and use LinkedIn to the best of its ability. Our footprint, just to give you a snapshot, is ever-changing. We're now at 232 million members and growing worldwide. It's roughly 2.5 members per second joining up, 200 plus countries. And I think the key thing here is certainly, the majority of our members are now outside of the US. When I joined 4 years ago, that certainly wasn't the case. And you've got a sort of more in-depth footprint there around Europe and Northern and Southern Europe too. That's our physical presence. So I'm going to dive a little deeper into the three specific channels there. So hiring, engaging the world's passive talent. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think personally that you can't place your jobs, you can't win business, you can't build a brand if you're not hiring the right people, if you're not always looking at the DNA of your own organisation. It comes back to how you obviously attract the best talent on the market, not the best talent that is available now in the market. So actually being able to find that talent, being able to build relationships with that talent, so that they think of you as a brand of choice and are more likely to respond to you the next time you want to talk to them about something that is invaluable as well as an opportunity for their next move. Talent powers everything that you do. Anyone disagree with that? No? So there's...
I would disagree with that. In the current economic climate over the last 3 or 4 years, there's a lot of outstanding candidates who are not actually employed at all, much less happily employed.
Sure.
In fact, there's a lot of good candidates who are very unhappily employed, but afraid to change jobs because they can't afford to run risk.
Yeah. So you're saying that people are sticking where they are out of fear, in a certain way as well. Yeah, I agree with that as well. But there obviously is a large workforce out there, both active and passive. From I think if you've got 80% of our membership network, our membership is passive. So for whatever reason that may be, there is 80% of any given industry that is not actively looking for work. Then you've got the other 20%. Comment obviously about the other 20%, it isn't just rubbish, but it's a case of saying that the 80-20 will help you make sure that across the market you can source those best people at whatever mindset they're in. I think for the most part, they fall into these two buckets. Certainly having a CV is becoming less and less common for someone who's passive. I think what this message to me says is that the bar for somebody who is passive in their role, someone that isn't thinking about their next job, in order to compel them to respond, it's a lot higher. And the steps that you need to take to actually build that relationship, that rapport with someone is going to be a slightly longer road and one that is going to be less reactive. So regardless of whether they're active, regardless of whether they're passive, I'm not going to walk you through all of this. This is what people do on LinkedIn. Out of the top 10 activities on LinkedIn, looking for a job is not one of them. Someone might click on a role and start to look at a job, but the journey that they go on with that brand, with that organisation, can take them through a whole number of different activities, a number of different experiences, from looking at their company page to making an introduction to somebody in that company, connecting with those individuals, forwarding on a piece of information, a piece of content that they find compelling about their industry. Good people know good people, and therefore I'm more likely to take heed of a piece of content that I get from somebody in my network rather than it coming just straight out of the blue. So I think that's probably a snapshot of the ecosystem. In terms of actually looking at how you source the best talent from your organisation, just giving you an idea of the UK and the recruiters that we have on LinkedIn, there's 100,000 plus. 170,000 plus people follow Hays, which is the most followed recruitment company. Followers are a way of building those talent pools, starting to demonstrate an ROI on those relationships that you're building with those individuals. I'll come on to a few more stats later about followers. And there's 4,500 groups that are dedicated to recruitment best practice and networking. This is some dummy data. This isn't verbatim, it's just for aesthetic purposes. But actually, we can measure the way that, and we can measure the war on talent, if you like, that a firm has. How are they doing against their competitors in actually attracting the best people to work for them in order to drive their business forward? So, in the case of these 5 brands that you see here, the red line is showing you how many people have left and how many people are actually being hired from. So the green line, if the green line is ahead, then you're obviously winning that war on talent. But as I say, that's dummy data. It's sensitive, and there's information that we can provide around your own firm to you in this capacity if you want to go into further depth further down the line. So marketing your brand. As I said earlier, it's about making sure that, like it or not, if you have a presence on LinkedIn, if you've just joined LinkedIn and you've got an incomplete profile, and perhaps you might be attached to the wrong organisation, think of the impact that that has on somebody that you're looking to connect with, that you're looking to build a relationship with. You could be the best recruiter in the world, you could be the best marketeer in the world, but think of the actual first impression that generates. And that translates to a company as well. The top 2 most prevalent activities on LinkedIn, unsurprisingly, the first one is checking out individuals. We're very nosy. And the second one is checking out company pages and the information that they have. And more these days in the recruitment world, just having jobs is not enough. I think that's expected. That's the lifeblood of your business. You're expected to have roles. They want to know more about who you are as an organisation. Can they trust you with that next step in their career? What information, what value can you bring in terms of the industry that they're working in? Perhaps, and to the gentleman's example there about that fear around thinking about moving or not, receiving insights around the industry and how it's moving, how it's behaving, presents you as more of a trusted advisor. The analogy I heard the other day is, you don't just want to become another Currys or a HMV, bury your head in the sand and just act as a middleman, because these days that's not enough. So it's about building your brand, marketing yourself effectively as an organisation, and showing what you have to offer. If you step into somebody's office, how do you translate that online in terms of the impression that it generates? And we can compare that market, that what we call talent brand index, by measuring a number of different behaviours from our members around your brand. So how many people you're reaching as an organisation versus how many of those you're actually actively engaging. How many are you actually having a two-way conversation, whether that's then looking at a role, applying for a job, getting engaged with a group discussion, connecting with your employees. That brand index is then measured in that way to say, look, okay, to the left, those organisations are having an easier time with their reach. You said, say Stockton may have a reach of 1,000 people. 270 of those individuals are actively engaging with them. But the middle one, at 11%, might have a reach of 100,000. Yet their engagement is 11%. So it's critical that you obviously keep fishing where the fish are. You keep expanding that pool of talent that you're looking to source your own employees from, but also your own your candidates and your clients. And making sure that once you've got their attention, that you're maintaining that attention with them, that they choose to follow you as an organisation, and that they choose to actively engage and contribute to discussions in one way or another and become part of the network. So it all starts with your presence on LinkedIn. The first two here you can control: your employees' profiles, your company pages. You have a lot of control internally to make sure that your employees have got the right pictures up there. They haven't got pictures of themselves falling out of bars on a Friday night, pictures with kids, pictures of celebrities I've seen as well, and things like that. We remember faces a lot more than we remember names. And the same goes for your company page. You're making sure that there is, you've got the address right, basics, things like that. And your followers will then come. So the people that then look at your brand and think, yeah, they're a professional outfit. They don't just strike me as someone who's working out their back bedroom, excuse me. They are, I'm going to choose to follow them. They've got something interesting to say. And at some point, when I look to either be recruited, or look to move into a different role as a recruitment consultant, I'm going to consider that brand. So your followers become your ambassadors as well if you build trusted relationships with them. As I said earlier, good people know good people, and they're likely to pass that good word on. It's the viral aspect of LinkedIn. This is a typical sort of typical snapshot of what we see from the recruitment agencies that we have on LinkedIn, between sort of like 10 and 100 employees, maybe a little more. I mentioned before on the previous slide, you can control 2 out of 3, your employees and your company pages. So we have the ability to be able to pull the information that says talented professionals are connecting with your company. Everything I've just said, you're thinking, okay, well, how do we know that we're actually engaging the right people? Our reach might be 100,000, our brand index might be 50. Brilliant. How do I know I'm actually talking to the right person and the right people? So what we can do is actually show you that if you have 45 employees from your firm on LinkedIn, how many profile views that generates on a monthly basis. Those are unique views, so that you can see that you're being checked out, and the same applies to your company page as well. Same premise, to demonstrate that there is an opportunity to actually influence these professionals, and also understand the breakdown of those numbers there. Does that make sense? Yeah? So when I go to meetings, I'm looking at this and I'm saying to my clients, I'm saying, okay, generally these are a mix of clients, competitors, candidates, and there's a general, sort of agreement in the room that we're sort of directionally correct on that. But what this actually says is that in terms of marketing your brand, we can look at this data and say, okay, what is it that you want to say to Red Commerce? That's the top one, if anyone's a little too small. What type of message do you want to convey to people in the IT industry versus those in human resources? There's obviously, again, we're thinking about attracting business, attracting candidates, and attracting people that are going to work for you. Now, members first, and they could be all of those or none of them. And then you can start thinking about the type of message that you want to send out to those individuals, because it's a targeted environment. It's not just a billboard approach where you have to rely on somebody to drive by and see it. We can actually make sure that that right message is pushed out to the right people at the right time in the right place. So the way to do that, if we're going from the top left, clockwise, is a bit like a party analogy. You wouldn't have a party without sending out any invites, and you wouldn't send invites to a party that isn't happening. So no one in the history of the internet has ever built a platform, has ever driven traffic to a platform that wasn't there. So the best way to go about doing this is what I've been saying for the last few slides, is establish that company presence. You get it looking the way you want it to look. Make sure people know who you are in terms of your company culture. Make sure that your employees are set up in the right way that demonstrates who they are and the type of industry and niches that they specialise in. Make sure that the groups that you're setting up and your employees are setting up are active. and have worthwhile discussions in them, rather than just throwing a load of jobs at them. Because for a network that is 80% passive, that doesn't get people talking as quickly as you'd think when they're in a group situation, a group forum. Attracting the audience is talking about how do you make sure that you're demonstrating and displaying the right type of products in your shop window. So making sure that you're advertising and putting the best foot forward on your employees' profiles. Versus if you look at anyone's profile now on LinkedIn, you'll see that there's an ad space that can show any type of advertising that's dynamic to you as the member. It's using your member detail profile to actually drive relevant content to you. But as an enterprise client, you can lock that down. And this actually enables and encourages those members that you're looking to target to follow you as a company. And there's a whole bunch of APIs that you can actually attach externally to your own website. If you go to a link called developer.linkedin.com, that'll give you a whole host of free APIs that you can look at, just a line of code that your IT department can attach to your website that has, follow us on LinkedIn on your website, for example. Creates more traffic and a more holistic ecosystem and experience for those individuals that you're looking to build relationships with, not just on LinkedIn. Make sure that you're engaging in conversation. Some of the conversations that I actually have to have with clients that have spent not insignificant amount of money with us, and then just expect the weapons to fire themselves, excuse the analogy. The commitment that we need from a client is to be able to actually use it and think about what they're saying. There's no point in making noise for noise sake. Content has to be relevant and it has to be optimized to the right people. And as I showed you with that graph of breaking down the clients and the functions previously, we have the ability to be able to look at all the various components of what you're doing on LinkedIn to say, okay, how are you doing? Are you reaching, not only expanding your reach, but reaching the right people now? What type of click-through rates are you getting? How are your followers breaking down? How are you targeting them? What are you saying to those followers in the UK versus some followers in the IT industry worldwide? If you do this in the right way, if you get yourself, it's never going to be perfect. And social media is all about continuing to iterate that process, just constantly. I think it's probably, it's like the war on CRM systems. It's an ongoing battle, if you like, to make sure that it stays relevant and up to date. But if you get this right, directionally correct, your audience that is engaging with you actively are more likely to follow your company. And then they're more likely to accept emails or connection requests from your employees. 61% of our members are more likely to share information from your company as a result of following that company. So again, coming back to them being a brand ambassador for you, even though they don't work for you. 79% of members are interested in job opportunities from companies that they're following. So I said right at the beginning, that the top 10 most popular activities are not looking for a job. But if you're doing all of this and they're following your organisation, that level of trust, and you're top of mind as a brand to them, they're more likely to listen to you, to what you have to say about an opportunity. And even if it's not right for them, refer it to somebody else, just like in the real world. So selling, the business development component, a lot of what I've just said actually applies here. It's building trust right across the board, whether they're candidates, clients, or prospective employees. It's building that relationship with them in order to make sure that they feel confident in putting their trust in you for their next move. So, again, just like the real world, the tools can help acquire both inbound and outbound conversations. We call it push and pull. So, connecting with someone, sending someone an email, for example, is our push strategy. Pulling is sending out targeted advertising campaigns to an audience that you designate to us in order to warm up an audience that is previously not aware of what you do. Develop that client, and then obviously make sure that you're retaining them by engaging them with thoughtful content, blogging. I don't know how many of you actually have a marketing department. or an individual that looks at blogging, not just on LinkedIn, but posting through Twitter, posting through Facebook, all of that content, you know, can be relevant and actually broken down, as I've said, to specific industries. So if you have 7,000 followers, you don't necessarily need to that doesn't mean that those 7,000 followers see something that you're blogging about the IT industry, for example. You can break that down. You can actually target your followers through location, industry, job title, function. I think that's it as well. So it actually keeps it more relevant, more targeted to you. So a couple of case studies, and then that's the slides done. And we can take some questions if there are any. Anyone here heard of Australis? No? They are a recruitment consultancy based up in St Albans, I think. Very niche, very boutique. Probably about 20, no more than 30 employees, I don't think. From the higher part of our higher market sales strategy, they used our solutions to combine their network and advanced search functions and their recruiters' expertise and niche knowledge around their own specialisms and industries to drive their email response rates up to about 50% of those sent. We generally say between 25 and 30 is good when you're looking at targeting people that are passive by nature, for the most part. And their solutions pay for themselves within 6 weeks. It also, interestingly enough, when we ask how our clients measure ROI, yes, bottom line, you know, is the obvious one. But think about, do you measure the actual recruitment process and the time that it takes to fill a job with a client? And how you can actually track how that would be compressed by using a solution like this. It helped them to reduce their advertising spend on traditional job boards, and almost a third of their revenue is now generated from using LinkedIn solutions. From the marketing point of view, a very, very different organisation called Stott & Mayer, based out in the city. Sit below, I suppose, just below the Corn Ferries and Hydrix of this world. They used our media solutions to increase their followers. They recognised towards the back end of last year that, you know, for an organisation that has international ambitions, you know, having just above 0 followers in September of last year was clearly not going to drive their ROI with those communities and target audiences that they're looking to target. And with our solutions, they've actually accelerated that up to February 2013. Obviously that data is slightly dated now, but as you can see, they've gone from 0 to just below 5,500 in under 6 months there. And again, breaking down those followers, we can see that they're the right type of followers for the industries in which they recruit. Finally, on the sales side, the business development side, Emerald Technology, looking to break into new markets. So maybe not having an extensive network on LinkedIn, as much of an extensive network on LinkedIn as they would have liked. They actually set up a group and started discussions around that actual industry and those markets, rather than sort of bowling in there with size 10s and trying to grab all the business straight away. They started a sort of trusted advisory strategy rather, and made sure that those individuals, the group's now 13,000 members, were kept up to date on the latest news and insights on specific industries in different countries as well. So that's the deck. Hopefully everyone's still alive and awake. Are there any questions at all?
I think we'll have time for about one question. Thank you, Jonathan.